What's up, everybody? It's Ash, and
Rafa.
as usual, every Sunday we will record a podcast. Today is Sunday, March 9th. We were supposed to shoot outside. We planned to shoot it outdoors, but the weather today are crazy. It is spring. It's March, supposed to be spring, but does it feel like spring?
Not really, bro. With this snow, it doesn't feel like spring at all.
Yes, it's been snowing like crazy. And fun fact, speaking about crazy weather, I haven't told this to Rafa. I'm gonna get his reaction now. You know, in Malaysia there is like rain, stone, hailstone. Yes, bro, hailstone in Malaysia right now, bro. So I don't know. It's the effect for global warming, climate change, or anything. I think it would be that, right? So if you've been watching our episode, this is episode 5. Oh my God, we've been recording for like 4 episodes now. How do you feel about it?
I mean, it's been a great exercise. We are always having interesting discussions. So yeah, good job, Mr. Ash.
Right? And if you've been noticing also, we've been doing different kind of concept every episodes, right? The first episode was us walking around in the park. Second episode, you eating lunch with us. Third episode was you on the bed with us, which looks like a porno video. But I swear it's not, guys. It's us talking about your career. Fourth episode, we went to Green Bazaar where we got scammed a little bit. We were told that you have to pay to record, but actually no. And fifth episode, what are we talking about today, Rafa?
About work and entrepreneurship and I don't know, general advices for the people that are going through that process of deciding what to do, either go to formal education or start getting job experience or getting a job, starting your own business. All of these questions that we all have, we still have even our whole life here. Yeah. So yeah. What was your experience? Look, in my case, I remember when I was in college that my dad, who is a very wise man, he used to tell me every time, like, don't worry about getting job experience, focusing in the university, right? And it was good, it turned out well, but probably that's one of the few advices that I would question from my dad, right? Because nowadays that I'm a lecturer, I always tell the students, you should get some experience, and I think you can tell more about that, right? So
Yeah, I mean, like the whole topic, if I were to kind of articulate it a little bit better, right? We were talking a bit about like when you are a student, people tell you, oh, get a job or do this project, do this, do that, right? There's so many advices that you will receive as a student or you've been receiving. Even for me as when I was a student, right? And I think like Rafa, you were so fortunate to have your dad to kind of guide you and also other mentors. For me, no one is really kind of like guiding me. I literally had to navigate it by myself. So the whole topic of this episode, we're going to talk about, should you get a job? Should you do an internship? Should you start your own business? Or should you party your way through your 4 years college degree, right? So that's what we're going to talk about, right? So just now you asked me a question, right? What was I thinking, right? Honestly, for me, it has to depends on what you want to do. Right? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, right? I think this will be a very, very common question at the start of your adulthood. People always ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 2 years, right? When I was a student, I was pretty adamant and also pretty kind of like focused. I feel like, okay, I'm gonna be here. It is my career. I'm gonna be here. Gonna be here. I remember when I was 18, when people asked me where should you go and everything, I would always say that I'm gonna be here, work at this company, do this and do that. But during the MBA, I realized that, and during and after the MBA, whenever the people ask me that, where are you gonna be in 5 years, Ash? I will always say that whenever the wind blows me, I'm just gonna go with the flow, right? What do you think? Like, should they find a job? Should they do internship, or do you agree that we should party the whole 4 years?
that's a great question. I have a very good friend of mine in Mexico, and we were always somehow close, but at the same time competing, right? Greetings, Carlitos. And he had a very different approach to mine when I was younger. He was an expert on networking, right? So we went to the same university, we played in the same football teams, we went to Washington with the same scholarship and everything, but his approach was always more on networking. And my approach, it was a little bit, but not that much on networking. And with time, we became good friends, and we've been talking about it recently. And I think talking about the partying and stuff, we can go the other stuff in a bit. It's important to find a balance, right? Like, if you are always partying and networking and making connections, that's going to help you. But then when you need to create value, if you cannot, then people will be like, oh, he's just bluff, right? But if it's the other way, if you study, and you become an expert in so many things and stuff, but you don't have social skills, you cannot sell yourself, then you will always be in a cave, right? So I think to start with, I would say finding that balance is the most important thing probably for your career. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing to say, right? And finding the right balance, right? So typically, when we're talking about this, generally there's a three path that you can take, right? Where you want to work or do your internship, work with someone, or you want to start your own business. For example, if you know how to bake, you start by selling cookies, or if you know how to do or to edit videos, you start by editing videos, or if you are a good influencer or content creator, you can do by coaching other people, right? You can do or start your own venture. Or the third option is, like we said earlier, like Rafa said, right? You can just party or network with people, right? So all three options has pros and cons, right? For example, what is the pros of working with four people for you? What do you think? If you studying full time and you work for people, what can you get from that?
I mean, it's great to get experience, right? But at the end, you're always going to be working for someone else's team, right? And that's something that is not the most fulfilling thing you can do with your life, right? At least for some of us.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So for cons, it's like you will always work with some other people's dream, right? But the pros for that is like you have stable income. If you're someone who like to shop, like me, I love shopping. So you have a fixed income coming every month for you, right? Second thing is if you start your own business, right? What do you think is the pros and cons of doing your own business while you're still a student?
Yeah, I think that is probably the hardest way, right? People think like, oh, I want to have my own business so I can have time and I can enjoy life and I can be the boss and I can have people that work for me. But usually I've never seen someone that has a business that starts and it goes to that point without going through the whole process of actually you working 24/7 in your business, right? So yeah, the pros is that you will love it, but the cons is that it's going to be hard and you're going to have a lot of challenges and problems, and you cannot get away. You cannot say like, okay, my shift is over, because that's your stuff, right? So it requires a lot of responsibility, which maybe you not have when you are that job, right?
Yeah, bro. And the third option that we're gonna talk is doing neither. Not working for anyone, not doing your business. It's just that you party away. The good thing is you were able to focus in your study, right? And also you're able to kind of like, produce high quality of work, right? Because I've seen some of the students who have a part-time job or full-time job, bro. When I review their work, I was like, oh, I know for a fact that you can do better, but because of the time and energy at work that's consuming too much, that person is not able to kind of fulfill their student's duty, right? Let's talk a little bit about what we did, right? You want to talk about what you did as a student, what you do?
Yeah, I mean, why don't you start? I think you have a good
Oh my god, okay, I can start first. So for me, I know because I studied communications, right? I did diploma in communication and media study, and I did my degree in mass communication. I majored in public relation. That communication degree, it's gonna be controversial for me to say this, but I can say this. Everybody could do our job. Everybody, a lawyer can decide to quit their law degree or quit their law job and become a marketer, right? Or become a PR officer, right? I know that since I was a young age that my courses are very, very easy. People who studied math, went to math school, can study communication too, right? It's very easy course to do. For me, it's very easy, and it's very easy job to do. And I know that I have to kind of like differentiate myself in an industry, right? I know for a fact if I graduated with a communication degree, it will be kind of like challenging for me to find a job, right? So I was talking to a lot of my professors and a lot of my seniors. They said to me, it's like, Ash, you need to start building your portfolio. How do I build my portfolio? Is by working, right? By working for other people, right? So during my diploma years, my final year, I only had one class per week. So I was working actually part-time at H&M, right? That was kind of my first foray into the fashion industry. Then I got a job at the end of my final. After I finished my diploma, I got a job working. My first job at Jovi Mendagi, right? I work as a customer service. Then I got promoted to become business development, right? And before I got promoted, actually, I got an offer to pursue my degree. And at that point, I did not want to pursue my degree because at that time, I was 2021. I had this mindset that I feel like having a bachelor's degree are pointless. I think it's just useless. Education is pointless because you can just, because at that point I felt the joy of earning your own money, right? I feel like, oh, okay, I have a corporate job. Like, why do I have to go, like, why do I have to go and get a 4-year degree, right? But my mom was really very strict about it. She said, okay, you still need to have your degree. So I compromised. What I did was I was working full time and I was studying part time. That's what I did. And at that point, when I did that, all my friends told me I was stupid, I was crazy. Because from diploma, if you do a bachelor's degree, you fast track. So you only have to complete 1.5 years of your bachelor's degree because you have the credit transfer, everything. You'll be done within 1.5 years. But I had to finish my bachelor's degree, but I did 3 years diploma and 4 years of bachelor's degree, which was supposed to finish in 1.5 years. But I did longer. But I never regretted that choice because when my friend graduated in 1.5 years, they all were struggling to find a job, a high paying job. But at that point, bro, I was the same age with them, but I have 3 to 4 years of experience. I was able to kind of demand for more money, which now that I look at it, I don't regret it. Look at me, like even being here in Kazakhstan because I started early because I make sure that I equip myself with more skills and more competitive. What about you, bro?
So yeah, I've been always very, very, very active. And when I was in college, I was also like the leader of a group when we were organizing like survival camps and stuff, and it was very interesting. And one of the things that I did while I was studying, it was I put a business with talking about entrepreneurship. I started a business with a friend. We were organizing parties for kids in the, like, how do you say, like the rich areas, like the boggy, or how do you say,
The bougie area.
the bougie areas of my city in Querétaro. And we were bringing inflatables and we were organizing stuff, and it was a very interesting business. But I just did it like that was what I was doing in the camps, and then I was doing it for money. But I just cared about the money. I didn't think about the processes and the marketing and stuff. Now that I think about it, it was a great experience. Saludos, Fer. Also, he was my first business partner, very good friend. But anyway, the thing is, I was focusing more on studying and doing other activities, not necessarily business, not necessarily internships. And that also built a lot of my profile, right? Because I was taking a lot of like leadership courses. I was actually putting into practice into different settings. And then when it came the time to get a job and stuff, it was really easy for me because I already worked in Disney World, right? I did the internship with Disney. And then I got the scholarship for Washington, and then I became a representative for the government of the youth in Querétaro. So from there, it was just going with the flow. But anyway, the main idea, I think, is it's up to you. You can do whatever, but focus on something that creates value for you, creates value for others, and be active. Don't be patient. The worst thing you can do if you're a student is just go to school and then forget about it and play video games or something else and think that with your diploma you're gonna make it through. That's not the case, right? You don't need a diploma, you don't need experience, but you need to be active so you can learn and observe and understand how the world works and where can you fit more, where can you create more value. Yeah, that would be my general approach.
Yeah, now that you said it, I was actually reflecting as Rafa was talking, right? Regardless of what you want to do, right? For me, I choose a different route compared to Rafa, right? My route is much more intense. The reason why I say intense is because I was working full time from 9 to 7. Back then, we worked from 9 to 7. I work extra 1 hour. To my boss who tricked us into working extra 1 hour and not paying us extra. That's the reason why your company now is shut down, because you torture people. I'm joking. Actually, I've learned a lot in that company. So 9 to 7 I work, and then after 7 I will have to go to group discussion, do assignment, everything. My schedule's always been packed. That's why during the MBA, as much as I say that we struggle, I don't struggle that much in terms of schedule, bro. Because my schedule has always been like that. It's always been like full from 9 a.m. like 6 a.m. in the morning until like 12. It's always full with me doing some stuff, right? So regardless of what you want to do, is think about it from the way that what are you trying to learn from the situation, right? For me, what I learned, what I was doing juggling between full-time work and also part-time studying, is I learned time management, right? The reason why I'm very good in balancing all this project, the fact that now we work at a full-time lecture, I was able to do this podcast. Apart from this podcast, I also have a personal project that I'm doing as well. The reason was I was able to do this because I already trained myself during as a student, doing all multiple projects at the same time. So I think look at what you want to achieve. Like, what are you trying to learn? For me, when I was doing that, I was thinking, all right, okay, what am I trying to learn, right? Sometimes it doesn't make sense, and that's okay. Even now, doing this podcast, even before we started record episode 5, this past few days, I have a lot of kind of like negative thoughts. I was thinking, what's the point of doing this? What's the point of doing this? Like, who the fuck listen to like a Mexican guy and a Malaysian guy talking about life and careers, right? But I was thinking, like, maybe 2 years from now, when maybe this podcast blew out or something, we're doing something, this will all make sense. It will not make sense now. That's why you have to keep doing what you're doing and focus on the goals that you want to achieve. My goal is just, like Rafa said, he wants to create value. I want to create an impact to people, right? I want to help more people to become more confident, to become much more smarter, right? Do you agree that, to trust the process?
Yeah, definitely. It's not about going to the top of the Everest. It's about enjoying the way while you get there. And another idea I would say is, we all have different paths, right? So just focus on yourself and learn to know yourself and understand what are you good for and what is what you love, and don't look at others that much, right? We mentioned it before, but that's very important when you're thinking about this, right? Because sometimes you get the pressure. Maybe you don't want to work yet and you see your friends already making money and you're like, oh, now I need to work, right? Or maybe you're building your own business and then you see your friends that have some salary and say like, maybe I should get a salary, right? Or maybe you're always comparing, and it's not that like that, right? Life is long, right? So you can do something and then try other thing and then other thing. That's okay. Yeah. What is the next idea? I forgot.
Next idea. No, that's idea. It's just that the next segment that we're gonna go is to kind of like tell them which one is the right choice for them. Which we already answered, no?
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong answer in this situation, no? It all depends on, like I said it again, your goals. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, right? When you took, for example, marketing degree, what do you want to do? For example, if you take an econs degree, what do you want to do, right? What kind of, like, I will always say that now I'm at the age that I would say that focus on the impact that you want to create, right? Don't focus too much about what you want to learn, but focus on the impact. Of course, you want to learn something, but what are you doing with that knowledge, right? I think these are the things that we learn from MIT, I think. Because at MIT, they always tell us that at the end of the class, they always say that, please use our knowledge to make a world a better place, right? So now, that's always has been my default kind of like thinking, right? Whenever I want to learn a new skill, a new course, I was thinking like, how do I create an impact from this knowledge that I have? But even doing this podcast, I want to create an impact because I have this knowledge, Rafa has this knowledge. We want to help people, more people, like, because I'm sure our story, as much as we want to say that we are very unconventional, some of the stories that we share with you could be very, very normal thing, right? Things that everyday people suffers and also think about it all the time too, right? Alright, I think we've spoken enough about the serious stuff. Let's talk a little bit about music. What music have you been listening this week? Yeah.
You already know what?
No, not really. I have to go and open. I think I kind of know what I'm listening to. Hold on. I'm opening my Spotify right now.
3 hours later.
Oh, I've been actually listening to a lot of Indonesian songs. So my song of the week would be Kembali Pulang by Suara Kayu and Febi Putri. Very, very nice Indonesian song, and it's very because this week I've been thinking a lot about the future, right? The future is a bit uncertain, so and also the weather has been very mellow. This week also it's been very cold and snowy and also rainy, so that song's kind of fit my vibe.
Yeah, I think I haven't talked anything about Russian or Kazakh rap yet, and it's time to mention it. So I would choose Scriptonit. He was one of the first local artists that I met when I came here, and I've been listening to him again and other rappers, right? Truer, also from Russia, Big Baby Tape, Bushido. There are many others, Pharaon, but Scriptonite, no matter what kind of music you like and stuff, he has a live cover of Moby, and check it out, it's beautiful. It has violins and it has a lot of beautiful voices participating and helping him. It's a good stuff. Yeah.
Okay, I am not a fan of rap music that much. When I say rap music, I would say that male rap. I listen to female rap like Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, Doechii, Megan Thee Stallion. I listen to that. But when Rafa first showed me that video of Scriptonite, guys, I was blown away because I've always think that in my head I was thinking like, why don't rappers rap with live orchestral music, right? When I see Scriptonite, I was like, this is exactly what I've been thinking all these years, right? I would think like it would be so amazing when they rap with all orchestral instruments and everything. It would be so great, right? So when I saw that video the first time, I remember you were living in the somewhere near, I can't remember, something when we first came here. It was amazing, no? Cosmopolis, yeah, when you were living in Cosmopolis, right? Alright, we are at the end of our podcast episode this week. So look, the thing about starting your own business, doing your own work, partying, think about your future. What do you want your future self to be thankful for, right? Do you think partying will help you? Do you think finding a job will help you? Do you think starting a business will help you? At the end of the day, it's up to you, right? As much as Rafa and I can yap about it for like hours, at the end of the day, it's your life and you have to decide, right, Rafa?
Yeah. And another thing that I would say it's possible, and it's a good advice I think for the young generations, is you can do everything. Like if you really want it and you really desire it and you really love it, you can do everything. My dad is much more less, let's say, like he's not that social. He doesn't like to party that much and stuff. But when I was younger, I liked to party a lot. And my dad once told me that he had a classmate. He was a party monster, but he was the only classmate that was all competing with him on grades. And that created like a model in my head where I could be that, right? I could be productive, I can run my own business, I can have a job, and I can enjoy life and do what I do. And you just need to organize yourself, and everything is possible. So, yeah.
Rafa speaks talk about competition a lot, right? I mean, like to compete. One thing I realized, I was reflecting about myself a little bit, right? I was never in competition with anyone. Right? The only person I compete with myself yesterday. Ever since I was a kid, bro. I never cared. Whenever my mom say, "Oh, look at your cousin with the same age as me. Look at what he's doing, everything, blah blah. Look at your neighbors." And I never give a fuck. When my mom said that, I would always say to my mom, "So, that's your life, that's my life, right?" Even up until today, sometimes my mom like to pressure me a little bit. I was like, "Ma, I move in my own time, with my own energy. Like, I don't care. The only thing that I care about is myself yesterday. For example, me an hour ago, I'm competing with me an hour ago because an hour ago, I was lazy. I was hoping for Rafa to cancel and say, "Oh bro, I'm tired today, we're not gonna record." But he came and I also was like, okay, we have to do it, right? So if you could do one thing right now that can earn you money, drop us in a comment what are the things that you want to do, right? Next week, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk something a little bit controversial. Controversial to other people, right? But for me, it's not controversial. Do you know what we're going to talk about next week? Okay, next week we're going to talk about, do you even need a university degree? Or now with the advancement of AI, today I've been exploring a lot of like AI made by the Chinese company, which is far more better than the one in the US. So goes back to the question: do you need a university degree? Do you need to spend 4 years, spend like $100,000 to complete an MBA or whatever? So stay tuned. If you're interested, next episode will be for you, right? So this is Ash for Not Like Us podcast Beyond the Classroom. Together with me, I have
Rafa Santa Cruz, Rafa for my friends. Yeah.
Stay tuned and thank you so much. And don't forget to click like, subscribe. Guys, if you're only watching and not liking it, what's the point? If you like us, click like. It's not that hard. You literally have to click like. That's it. It won't do anything. It won't charge you anything. Alright? Take care.
And stay safe and see you soon.
See you guys.